You're listening to the Just Go Bike podcast. We're all about the culture of bicycling just for the fun of it. Your host, Kathy Murphy from the Morphology Podcast and Andrea Parrott from Parrott Talk are joined by a wide variety of guests each week that delve into the social side of cycling. With tales from RAGBRAI Nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now, here are your hosts, Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
And that's me. Oh, hey, Murph.
Hey there.
Well, how are things going with you?
They are going great. I had a very fun weekend of biking with friends on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail. I went south from Cedar Rapids, but I don't know if this is known publicly, but they are almost done paving it a long, long ways up the north side of the trail. So that's pretty exciting.
Super exciting.
Yeah, and then I wrapped up the weekend. I did a bike ride in Waukee, Iowa, using the trail system there. I don't know what any of the names of the trails were called. I think we were on the Raccoon River Valley Trail for a little bit, but we ended up biking to a new music venue to listen to some live music. So it was fun.
Oh, that's so cool. Waukee is, I won't even say in my backyard, but if I use binoculars, I can maybe, see it from the top of my house. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. The venue, I think it's called Vibrant Music Hall. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, sweet.
So that was awesome. And to do it by bike is awesome too. So
yeah.
How about you?
Well, I'm waiting for some repairs on my bike. So nothing serious, but
Okay.
I spent the weekend doing a bunch of gardening. So it was nice to get caught up on that. Everything's sprouting, and I have some little teeny tiny baby jalapenos and tomatoes in my garden. So
Oh, cool.
This isn't a gardening podcast. I'm not going to get into it too much. We're having some rabbit problems, but we're moving on. I have a couple different things I've tried to keep them out of the garden. So that's what's keeping me busy.
Don't you have two large things that you could put in your garden to keep rabbits out of the garden?
You mean my gnome collection?
No, named Rex and Bart.
That's right, my two giant dogs. Well, they're on a strict no garden policy right now because one of them really loves to dig and one of them really loves to eat the produce.
Oh yeah, that would be a big yeah. I did notice I have little baby green beans in my crops, so I'm excited to snap those off and taste them.
Yeah, we've patrolled the perimeter with the dogs a couple times, but those rabbits, they're pretty smart. They know better. They know what's what. So, yeah.
Right. Last week, I don't think we talked about the Raccoon Ride, which is an event organized by the Iowa Bicycle Coalition.
Yes. We were extremely remiss in not talking about the Raccoon Ride. I think we were just too excited to have a Parrott Talk. So, we'll chalk it down to that. But the Raccoon Ride was really, really, really awesome.
We got to... Oh, gosh, sorry. Go ahead.
We had such a great time, and we judged the costume contest.
I know, that was fun. And it was, the Raccoon River Valley Trail. It's pretty cool because it's kind of like a RAGBRAI day because the towns are spread out like every 7 to 8 miles. And people could come in costume. And so it was pretty fun to see their, what do you call it? Like Margaritaville themed contest.
Yeah, yep. All their Jimmy Buffett themed items. Like there was I saw a bunch of parrots, a bunch of leis, a bunch of Hawaiian shirts. I mean, people had it all. They went all out. It was super cool. Well, we weren't in costume, but we were perfectly matching, of course.
Of course. And I do believe you had a parrot on your shoulder. Maybe
That's
we
right.
did talk about it, did we?
I don't know. Well, we're talking about it again because it was worth it.
That's awesome.
I had my little parrot Pickles. So Pickles always comes with me for if there's any reason at all, I will bring Pickles with me.
Yes,
but
that is true.
Yeah. So the Raccoon Ride, it was awesome. It was a little rainy at the start, but it was, now that we've had this huge heat wave, it was actually a #blessed because it kept the heat down that day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like I mentioned, it's organized by the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. So a big shout out to Luke and Katie for all their hard work getting that event set up and having it be successful.
Yeah, and if you don't already know, they have 3 rides in this RAGBRAI training series where it is Pigtails already complete, Raccoon already complete, and now coming up, the Big Rove Ride.
Yes. The Big Rove is coming up very quickly, but you can check out all the information about all three of these rides at the iowabicyclecoalition.org website.
Yeah, and just so happens that our guest today is Luke Hoffman. Is that right?
That is right. Luke Hoffman is on the podcast to catch us up on all the happenings at the Iowa Bicycle Coalition.
And Luke was part of the pre-ride RAGBRAI route inspection. I hope you asked him about that.
Of course, yes. We talked a little bit about pre-ride and what the ride inspection is about, and all the people that he met. So it's fun to hear his experience, and also he concluded that his ride was similar to me and you. You know how we talked about the hills weren't that bad, and so I'm like, I hope he doesn't say the opposite, but he was right on track with what we said.
Yeah. The Big Rove ride does have some hills in it, so if you feel like your training is lacking in hills, I would try this ride. If you've listened to this episode in time and you might be interested, it's in the Iowa City, Solon, North Liberty area. And if you don't know what that means, look it up, because it is kind of up to you where you ride on that ride.
Yes, for sure. And Luke is offering all of you listeners a discount if you want to ride the Big Rove ride.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the podcast before June 29th, 2024, use code RAGBRAI and you'll get a discount. And that's RAGBRAI.
That's right. Thank you for that, Luke.
Yeah, and let's get to the episode.
Here we go. A big welcome back to Luke Hoffman, Executive Director of the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Murph, how's it going?
Good. We have, I guess it's intentional, but I've been seeing an awful lot of you lately with, I guess they're all bike rides, with your sponsored bike rides and then our bike ride across the state of Iowa. So it's kind of been fun.
Yeah, and thanks to RAGBRAI for your continued partnership for our bike rides. We have our 3 RAGBRAI training rides. So we kind of look at these as a series. So we got Pigtails that happened in May, Bacon that just happened here earlier on June 15th, I believe it was. And then we have Big Rove coming up as well here at the end of June. So really excited to bring these back bigger, better than ever.
And Pigtails is like a women-focused bike ride, and I had an absolute blast on Pigtails. But I had an equal big blast on the Bacon ride, even though a good portion of the day was in rain. It was still like the camaraderie of all the riders. It was just really, really well put together.
Thank you. I really appreciate that compliment. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the word camaraderie. That is exactly what I felt as well. You could really sense that vibe on Bacon, on Pigtails as well. I mean, when we were partying at the Flat Tire Lounge after Pigtails, you really did get a sense of, I guess the word community also applies.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that, community that comes along with the camaraderie that comes with the community is really, you could sense it, you could feel it in the room. People were just having a really good time, and they were there with their friends, or they're there with their daughter, or there with their, person who's like in their corner on Pigtails, for example, championing them. One person I met on Pigtails, Julie, I believe her name was, was really cool. She was getting ready for her first RAGBRAI, and she was using Pigtails to train for that. So that was really, really cool. There was another lady who I met, and she had knee reconstruction surgery, and she was using Pigtails as a way of rehabbing her knee as her goal, so that she could eventually do RAGBRAI. So really, really cool stories of people that I met, especially on Pigtails. But then, on Bacon, as you know, the single largest one-day bike ride in the state, we had just under 1,500 riders.
Yeah.
And, 7-8 different food stops. So it's a food-themed ride for those who haven't done it. But it's, it was a 10-year anniversary for the ride. So it was extra exciting for those reasons. So all these different elements came together, and I feel like we've had just an awesome season for training rides. And everybody that I talk to at these events are stoked for the route on RAGBRAI, are training and getting themselves ready, getting in that mindset, and they're just extra excited.
Yeah, and these three events that you mentioned, Pigtails, Bay Coon, and Big Rove, I know they're like a training series for getting people ready for RAGBRAI, but they're also a fundraiser for your coalition, correct?
That's right. Yes. So all of the proceeds go to support our advocacy work. And I guess I should speak just quickly about who we are as an organization.
Yeah, for sure.
Bike Coalition statewide nonprofit organization. We are the only statewide nonprofit in the legislature, lobbying directly on behalf of the cycling community. And what we advocate for, bicycle safety, safe shared roadways, trails, and then, better infrastructure, better design, better policy making, broadly speaking, for cyclists, for the cycling community, so that you can start to see some of those benefits of a really robust cycling community that's already really awesome. But how can we equip and bring to bear more resources at the policy level, to provide this community with all sorts of different things that will make us safe and have more accessibility and have more fun.
And hopefully some of those RAGBRAI riders out there listening to this who maybe only come to Iowa 1 week out of the year will know that Luke Hoffman and his team are working hard to get the trails more accessible and get laws passed so that hopefully they'll come back to Iowa more than once a year.
That's right. So one example of a policy achievement that we had this most recent legislative session which ended here in March or April, we had an extra $1 million for trails for the whole state. So it was $2.5 million, the main fund for trails specifically, and now it's going to be $3.5 million. It's a one-time cash infusion to an infrastructure component of the state budget. So that's something we were able to lobby successfully for, and I think it's going to be a boon for the cycling community, but just for the state, because that's a lot of things more than just the cycling community. That's tourism dollars spent in the state that's going to result in that's talent attraction and retention, and that's more families choosing Iowa as a place to live, work, and play.
For sure. And wasn't there a bill passed this last season?
Yes. The big thing that we walked away with this most recent legislative session was the passage of our crosswalk protections bill, which was one of our top policy priorities for this legislative session. And what that means is that we were able to expand the definition so that, in a crosswalk, protections that you're provided with that apply to you as a pedestrian also apply to you if you are a person who is on a bike or on a scooter, or on a skateboard, or maybe you were pushing a stroller, or maybe you're in a wheelchair. So those protections now have been expanded to also apply to all forms of pedestrians, broadly speaking. And so I think that makes it adds more protection. It means more safety for everybody, so that you have the peace of mind of knowing that regardless of your form of transportation, whether you're on wheels or not, you are protected when you're in a crosswalk. And every person in Iowa at some point will walk through a crosswalk or bike through a crosswalk, or whatever you're on, you are protected. So this affects everybody.
Okay, well, that's something good. And, now we're getting into, it's officially summer. So I know everyone's been out there biking and training for RAGBRAI, but what happens with legislative stuff from now until winter time? Or is it a pause time, or is it a time when you're still out there talking to different people that make big decisions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we do kind of in the interim is we do a lot of relationship building. We work with legislators. I was actually just speaking with Senator Lofgren, who is from Muscatine, and he was actually the guy who introduced our crosswalk protections bill and championing that, and I was a state senator from Muscatine. So shout out to Senator Lofgren. He's awesome. Big champion for the cycling community, for trails.
Yeah.
And he also has been hugely supportive of hands-free, which is our number one issue, to help reduce distracted driving so that you have to use Bluetooth while driving. So he's just a champion in general. But, Senator Lofgren, I just talked to him earlier today, and we're strategizing about, okay, how can we try to get hands-free as our next big issue? And so talking to him about that. So it's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of strategizing. It's a lot of getting out into the community, doing outreach and attending events and things like that.
Cool. Okay. And that's an awesome segue into, building relationships and outreach. You were part of the RAGBRAI Ride Inspection team this year, which was, in my opinion, it was awesome. I loved every moment of it. So I want to hear kind of what you got out of that week, and maybe give your, AP and I have been telling the listeners that, it's not that bad. There's hills, but if you train, you're going to be fine. So now you're either going to make us liars, or you're going to agree with us and say, as long as you're training, you're going to be great. So give us your, what you felt about the RAGBRAI Inspection Ride.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would say is that I think that for me, the training that I did, I think you can always do more training, right? I had a friend one time last year tell me, I was like, I overtrained for RAGBRAI. I was like, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
No such thing as overtraining. That's not a thing. So I guess I say that to say that I could always have trained more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt like despite if I would have been out there more on the bike more, I still think I had an awesome experience. And I really enjoyed the hills. My perspective is give me rolling hills every day versus a headwind and a flat road.
Yeah.
So I like to get on those rollers and get over them. So I really had a great experience. And the hilliest day was actually my favorite, I think, just because on that day you had just this awesome fog that was on the road in the morning, and then the sun was coming through, and it gave this just really serene kind of moment for the whole team of folks who were on pre-ride, and we all just kind of looked at each other and we're like, this is what it's all about. So that was just a really cool experience and something that I'll carry with me forever. Yeah. It's really fun. It's that kind of stuff that you think about when you think about RAGBRAI, and then just the friendships that can develop. There's a person who, even was a vendor at the Iowa Bike Expo, Ben Gonerman with Shimano, who I didn't even have a chance to meet him. We were so crazy busy at the expo. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but he was on pre-ride. And so Ben and I actually became very close friends and are already planning our own bike rides now. And so it was just really cool you don't really get that opportunity to really get to know somebody. But when you bike with them over the course of a week, which we did on pre-ride, and you really have that bonding experience where you really walk away, you feel like you really know somebody. You're not just acquaintance, you're like your friends. So I think that's the opportunity that RAGBRAI offers. And then this route offers too. You see places like Silver City, and the mayor of Silver City, that was another memorable experience for me, was how happy and excited the mayor of Silver City was to come talk to us.
Yeah.
And it was really I'll just share this story real quick. When we were in Silver City, it was, coming in there, it was starting to rain on us, and it started to thunderstorm to the point where we had to hold off for a little bit. And there was a crack of thunder right when she walked up, and she was getting ready to address our group. And she raises her hand in the sky, and then right as she did that, lightning, thunder, rattled the building. And it was almost like the hand of God was coming down. It was really funny. And it's a cool moment just because we were all laughing and joking about it, and just to see her excitement and the excitement of all these small towns and the mayors of these small towns and the community that comes together around the leadership. It's really, really cool to see that. I think it's just such a unique experience that you don't see anywhere else, and just to see people come together and pull together was just so cool.
For sure. And I feel like it's such a unique perspective for those of us that get to do the route inspection ride, because we kind of see behind the scenes, because, RAGBRAI is run by ride director Matt Phippen, but he's not the one that lives in those communities that, has the fire department helping with getting things ready, and all the volunteers and the mayor and the chamber. These people aren't getting a 40 hour 40 hours a week to work on RAGBRAI. They all have jobs, and then they do this on the side. And then what was your opinion on going through Greenfield, the town that was hit by the tornado?
And that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about, which is just like the grace with which these towns come together and how humble. I mean, just you've never seen such humility in your life. Just these, and like you said, they have full-time jobs. They have their day jobs, but they're doing this on top of that, and then they're just so incredibly humble. And Greenfield was just like that. I mean, this town, I think 3 of the people on the committee that we talked to actually had lost their homes in a tornado. And I mean, there were tears in the meeting that we had with them where they're like, this happened to us, but we still want to make this work because we know what the promise and potential of RAGBRAI coming to our town is. And that's why we have to come together as this being the catalyst for that. And I mean, like, it's just so cool for us to be as a community in support of small towns like Greenfield and to use this as an opportunity to do good things, and to provide them that platform to talk about, this is why we love our town and this is what we appreciate about it, and for them to open up their hearts and share that with us is a really cool experience. It really is.
I agree. Yeah.
So that was a huge highlight for us. I mean, they were greeting us with these massive, you've never seen a bigger lemonade.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And we walked up there, these lemonades were massive. They were just handing it to us right when we walked up.
Well, and they made them right in front of us. Like,
and they were hand making them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw the lady scoop, I think it was like a whole quarter cup of sugar into one glass. I was like, oh my gosh. But then, you know what? That's probably how all lemonades are. I just don't think about it that way. Yeah. It was so good.
It's like all these, the restaurants, the bars, the small town, they're so receptive, and they just are they want to know, they want to understand, like, what is going to work? Like, should I be eating out? Should I be doing beer? Should I be doing like this or that? What works, what doesn't work, and they just want to understand and know, so that they really do care that the experience of all the riders that come in, that everybody has a super positive experience. Right. It's so much work that goes into that, and like you and I talked about, it's all volunteer driven, and that's just something that's completely unique to RAGBRAI, and that you just can't talk enough about it.
Yep. And every dollar that we spend when we go across the state of Iowa, whether it be with a vendor or an actual shop that's, in these small towns, all of that money stays right there in that community. It's not like they have to write a check to RAGBRAI. I mean, all that money stays right there. So we're doing good as we ride across the state.
Yeah, talk about a literal walking, talking, writing, rural revitalization machine. That's RAGBRAI.
Yes, yeah. Will you tell the listeners what your plans are for RAGBRAI as far as the Iowa Bicycle Coalition? And the thoughts that I'm thinking of would be if you're doing the Ride of Silence and what that's all about, and then also if you'll be a vendor.
Yes, and yes. So first of all, the Iowa Bike Coalition will be a vendor at the expo on day 0. And so if you are interested in coming up and talking to us and learning about how you can get more involved with us and our mission of making Iowa the most safe and accessible place to ride a bike in the country, you can come talk to me or Katie, our events manager, at the Bike Expo. And we will have a booth along the route that you can come meet with us day by day if you're only doing like a certain day. So come look for us, and we'll be posting about that on social media about where we're going to be and when and all that good stuff. And then finally, so Mile of Silence, we are going to be highlighting people who have been lost, unfortunately, been hit and killed by a car. And so there will be that Mile of Silence that happens, I believe, on the first day. So look for that, and then just be aware that when you start seeing those signs, to silence your music. And I know I play music when I'm riding, so just be aware and make sure to turn off that device that you're maybe listening to something on in your conversation, just out of respect, so that we can do our due diligence with lifting up those who we have unfortunately lost in our community, who are worthy of our time in that moment.
And I find that mile so impactful. In the past, at least, you've had signs, every, let's say 100 yards, and it will list the name of the person and their age and where they're from. And, I don't know that person or what happened exactly, but just to know that that's a person that used to be living and riding their bike, and now they're gone. And so I just find that mile very impactful.
Yeah, and they're Iowans too, so they're our neighbors, Even if RAGBRAI didn't go through their town this year, at some point in time, RAGBRAI most likely has or will go through a town of a person who has been affected by this issue. So this reminds us about exactly why the Bike Coalition is an organization and are fighting for the things that we're fighting for on behalf of everyone who's listening, and then everyone who is unfortunately not able to join us.
Okay, I've got 2 more questions, I think. How about most cyclists, like from other states, probably think of RAGBRAI when they think of cycling in Iowa, right? I mean, I live in Iowa, so I think a lot differently. I love Iowa and cycling, but what are your thoughts on, biking in Iowa as far as trails, safety, future? I mean, I know you work for the Iowa Bike Coalition, so that is your main focus, but what are your thoughts as far as the future?
Yeah, one of the things I'm really excited about, I've been hearing a lot of good things from the Iowa Gravel Project. They're doing an exciting ride over in White Rock Conservancy. That's an exciting thing. So I think the expansion of the sport into new things is really, really cool. So you see a lot of gravel rides happening in the Iowa Gravel Project. I'll just keep touting them. Are a great example. So check them out. They're constantly adding new rides. And so they're a good way to get engaged. Of course, mountain biking. There's tons of mountain biking. I mean, there's some mountain biking trails that are happening. I think there is a trail that was just completed or expanded over in the Sioux City area as well. That was a really cool project to see happening. There's a connector trail between Woodward and Perry, I believe it is. It's going to be connecting the Trestle Trail and the Raccoon River Valley Trail. So that 4-mile connector. And so that's going to be something that opens up a 180-mile loop of connecting trails. And that's incredibly cool to see, like, that interconnectivity of trails. And then another thing I'm really excited about is the Community Action Sports Center facility, which is about the BMX community, the mountain bike community, and actually the skating community coming together in the greater Des Moines area. And we just had a fundraiser for this, but we did successfully complete the fundraising for a feasibility study for an Olympic grade facility that would bring an action sports center that would be all inclusive of all those things I mentioned. Again, BMX, mountain bike, skating, and more, just the biking community in general. A facility that would be completely enclosed, so it would be a year-round facility, so you could come middle of January and train, participate again in Olympic grade, like, whether it's these skate ramps or, a place where you can practice your skills on mountain biking and a flow track, or whether it's competing with a local BMX group. BMX, 8035 is the name of that group. So this is being supported by awesome organizations like CETA. We have some amazing support and donations that have come in from Boss Distributing, and AccuSteel came in and provided some really big major gifts to make this happen as well. So really excited for the future of the sport. I'm excited for the new trails that are getting built, for new facility and infrastructure, like hardcore infrastructure that's going to be built hopefully over the next few years with this project that I was just talking about. And then just to see where we can be as a community in the next 5 to 10 years because of how much just continued enthusiasm there is for biking in Iowa. And I'm just excited to be part of it.
And that reminds me, when we were, I don't recall the highway, but when we were on the inspection ride coming into Albia, I believe, we were on a brand new road with, beautiful, beautiful shoulders. So I don't know if that's intentional, so that there can be slower moving, bicycles that are on the same, that can share the same space. But I love to see that when you see a brand new road, that it doesn't end with a gravel shoulder.
Absolutely. And it's definitely safer too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned hands-free as far as a focus that you have going forward with legislative issues. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So for hands-free, as it's commonly known, just means that it's an effort to reduce distracted driving. So it's in the same vein as no texting while driving, So while there is a no texting while driving ban on the books in Iowa, it's currently largely, and this is like what law enforcement will tell you because they are big partners on this, like the Department of Public Safety and Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau. It's very difficult to enforce that because you don't know what somebody is doing on their phone when you're a law enforcement person. And if you see them on their phone, are they texting? Are they on Facebook? On the Facebook Marketplace buying a boat or something, like what's going on, we don't know.
Right.
So it's hard to enforce it from a law enforcement perspective. They call it a loophole. It's kind of a gray area. So while there is a ban on paper, in practice, it's almost impossible to fully enforce that. And so this is something that we work with the law enforcement community to champion this policy. That's a next step in that process, which is to say we should have to use Bluetooth so that we can be hands-free. So that's why it's called hands-free.
Okay.
Because statistics and studies will show that in I think it's 35 or 36 states, Colorado just passed this, but it's also been passed in some form in Ohio, in Missouri, and in Illinois. So in most of the states surrounding us in the Midwest, and every state without exception that has done this has seen a statistically significant, dramatic decrease in fatalities and incidences, which has, of course, a huge impact in terms of lives saved, but also the economic cost and impacts. Those are driven down because their insurance rates can be lower in those states as well. So there's, of course, we need to be saving lives, and that's the primary purpose. But then there's a secondary positive impact economically, and all these other things that come with it. So every state that's done it is seeing this is a common sense. This is something that we need to do in Iowa, and so it's past time that we get this done.
You're doing a lot of great things, Luke.
Thank you.
Yeah. So people can come visit you or meet you and maybe Katie at the expo coming up RAGBRAI on, I call it day 0. If people are interested in knowing more about the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, where can they go to find more information?
Yep. So if you want to learn more about the Bike Coalition and how to get plugged into our programs and advocacy work, you can go to www.iowabicyclecoalition.org. Or you can check us out on just about every social media platform, but especially, Facebook, Instagram, X, or YouTube is just at Iowa Bicycle is our handle typically. And plugging that into your Google should bring it right up depending on which social media you're looking at.
Excellent. So if people are listening to this episode on June 25th or before Saturday, can they still register for Big Rove, or is that...
Yes. People can still register for Big Rove. And in fact, just for your listeners for being part of RAGBRAI Nation, if you would like to use the code RAGBRAI, you can get 20% off the sticker price for the tickets. So we are, although it's currently late registration because the event is coming up this Saturday, you can take 20% off the sticker price by just plugging that code in. So if you go to Eventbrite, and look up Big Rove, or just Google Eventbrite or Big Rove, and then plug in the code RAGBRAI. That will give you 20% off.
Wow, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and you can do that now through the beginning of the event. Of course, we encourage you to do it as soon as possible so we can have a good head count for food purposes.
Yep.
But registration comes with a ton of awesome benefits, and I'll just let your listeners check that out on the Eventbrite page for Big Rove.
Okay, sounds great. All right, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and we will see you in a few weeks on RAGBRAI.
Sounds good, Murph. I'll see you there.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and AP will be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, email them at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. Until next time,
Just go bike.
theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic. Produced by Kathy Murphy. Social media by Andrea Parrott. Intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.